And here we are, late start tonight. Thank everybody here for showing up at 8:30. Nice weather continues in the eastern U.S. Mountain snows, valley rains in the west, including some big snows for Colorado and Denver. And well, we've got all sorts of other weather going on in between, so we will cover it all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which, of course, as it is every night, brought to you by our affiliate Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this live stream. And if you purchase this or anything else from the Tempest website, they have all kinds of wonderful weather electronics and gadgets and gizmos and smart weather fashion. Use that coupon code winter2324 so you can reduce your price by,
10%.
yes, you get
Yeah.
10% off.
Yes, 10% off anything that you want to get from the good folks at Tempest.
So, good evening, everyone, to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Joe Rayo is on the right. I'm Joe Chaffee, and I hope everybody enjoyed last night's wonderful show with Fox 5 meteorologist Nick Gregory. And we'll see about whether we can line up some more guests down the road. Uh,
We're doing
uh,
pretty good lately, aren't we? We had Lee Goldberg, Alan Casper. Now we've had Nick Gregory. So word is getting around that the Joe and Joe show is the place to be if you're into weather.
well, if you know Joe, I'm an open type of person. Um, I will, of course, review all the guest requests to
Yes.
see if they, I mean, Nick, you know, after 35 years, he needed to, he had to make the big time here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Others, I'm not so sure about. We'll just have to wait and see. We will, we will review them each one by one
Yes.
individually as they are banging down our door. So, anyhow. The wind machine was turned down a few notches today for you, I assume.
Oh my goodness. I mean, the wind advisory expired last night at 11 o'clock p.m., but I want to tell you, at 11 o'clock p.m. last night, at least here in Putnam Valley, it was blowing about as hard as it was 12 hours or 18 hours before. And we have on the side of the house this big beige garbage pail. And Renata thought that she had secured it by putting it next to or in between two heavy garbage uh, barrels. And she came inside and said, it's not going anywhere. When I went out this morning to take the dog out, guess where it was? The beige garbage pail had managed to move out between those two larger pails and ended up in front of my garage. And I was lucky I saw it because if I hadn't, the cover would have gone God only knows where. It was still a very, very potent wind last night. And finally, as you just noted, finally, the winds have died down considerably. And tomorrow, with the lack of any significant wind and with temperatures expected to climb into the mid 60s, along with a lot of sunshine, it should be a gorgeous, gorgeous day here. And on Thursday, at least here in the Hudson Valley at Westchester County, we'll be approaching a possible record. So these next couple of days going to be great to be out and about.
Yeah, Thursday's a little tricky because it's going to depend on clouds. You got that system that's going to go by with some
Right.
rain up in upstate New York and into central and northern New England. So it's probably going to be like a sharp warm front. So maybe if the front is sharp enough that uh, you'll have no worse than a mix of sun and clouds. And yeah, with a west wind, temperatures got nowhere to go but up. So we'll see how that plays. Gorgeous day here in North Georgia. Not a cloud in the sky from start to finish. It got to 70 this afternoon. I mean, it was just beautiful. The wind had finally died down because it was still uh, a little bit on the breezy side yesterday, but not terrible. The day before, on the other hand. No, wait, was it yesterday was really windy or Sunday? I can't remember. Sunday was really windy.
Yeah.
Yesterday was so-so. It wasn't too bad yesterday. 'Cause,
By the way, for all the people last night when we were doing the interview with Nick Gregory, and a few people in the chat were saying, "What's Joe Rayo drinking?" Joe Rayo was drinking this. I love V8, and so that's what I was drinking. I was drinking some V8 cocktail vegetable is it cocktail vegetable juice, and that's what I was enjoying and having when we were interviewing Nick last night.
Keeps you regular,
Yes, exactly.
which is it's always important to be regular. All right, big hellos to everybody tonight, as we said, and for those of you lurking in the background, also, oh, excuse me, big hellos to you too. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is on from Sundays through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. Now we will be on tomorrow at regular time, correct?
Correct. 7:35.
7:35 p.m. However, no show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'm not sure yet about Sunday because it'll depend on what time I get back from Florida. So
Incidentally, on
just
the
bear
chat
that in
board,
mind.
Brandon Grablichoff has made a number of suggestions for our next guest here on Joe and Joe. One of them is Dave Curran. I will approach Dave. I worked with Dave. Dave and I worked at the same outlet, News 12 Westchester, for several years before he went to News 12 New Jersey. I question, however, whether Dave will be available because, unlike other television stations, which give you a break, between shows, and case in point, Lee Goldberg a few weeks ago, Nick Gregory last night. At News 12, they had gotten to the point, at least up until the time that I left, that they wanted to run you ragged. They had, at least at News 12 Westchester, they had me going almost every single hour with some sort of a show or presentation or Facebook or whatever. So I'm not really sure if Dave is going to have any time whatsoever available to be on Joe and Joe if I extend the invitation. I'm sure he'll say, I'd love to be on, but unfortunately, well, maybe we can get him on a Sunday. I don't think he works Sunday, but we'll see. But I'll try to.
I'm sure we can work something out.
You would think
You
that,
would
wouldn't you?
think we should be able to work something out. I mean, you would
Yeah.
think you would be able to drop everything in order to be on the Joe and Joe Weather Show
And you
podcast.
got to get
You
toward
would
the end of the.
think that News 12 would simulcast the Joe and Joe Weather Show
Yeah.
podcast with Dave Curran if he were a
Now
guest.
I said, I think I may have said it to you. Somewhere, sometime down the road, some TV executive is going to see the Joe and Joe show and say, "Why don't we do this on our regular TV nightly TV newscast? Get two guys and just have a short, maybe 3 or 4 minute discussion about the weather, and then throw it back to the TV anchors or whatever. And so whoever does that, I guarantee you, when it's done, it's going to become so popular that within a year, every television station across the country is going to be doing the same thing.
Of course,
Um,
we'll be sitting here just shaking our heads in disbelief that um, we're not getting paid for the idea.
exactly. Yeah,
Mill MUV, who is watching the show, with very closely, Joe, because he's mentioned that he's going to be going to Texas for the eclipse. Also wants to know, although he says it's none of his business, what I'm heading to Florida for. I understand that the shrimp are in season, so I'm going down to Florida for dinner with friends.
anytime.
I'm going to see some friends down in Florida. That's all. But thank you for asking. And everybody's
These
they're very caring and concerning. They want to make sure that I'm going to be all right, that I'm not going to be swallowed up by some Florida sinkhole.
Now, do you want to, anybody out there on the chat board want to ask the question about the princess in England and what's going on with her? I mean, you all seem to be interested in getting into our personal and private
Now, Joe,
affairs.
I just so you I'm very close with the royal family. Charles and I, we're BBFs, BFFs. I'm not paying any. I have no idea what's going on with her. I know she was editing something and on AI, and it was a doctor faked image or something like that.
I
So
don't
what?
understand it either. I mean, all I see is this one image with her and her children, and they're going ballistic over the picture and how she may have done something to her. She's a very attractive young lady. What's the big deal? And she just had an
I
operation.
think they're all bent out of shape because she said I think it was she was using some kind of some AI stuff, and the picture may not exactly have been authentic.
No.
Like everything else you see around is real.
Oh
We're
dear me.
we're not real.
Well,
We're just AI copies that are on the air.
well, why don't
So
we go to the speaking of AI, why don't we go to the latest AI weather graphics, or at least the European AI weather graphics,
why
and talk about.
did I miss something?
No, I'm just saying that you brought up AI, and I noticed that the European now is providing AI weather graphics,
Yeah,
and
all right.
we still have time to figure out or determine just how accurate they are or will be. So,
I will yeah, I mean it is there on Tropical Tidbits. Uh so it's not a joke, okay? There is a AI model run now. It appeared at the end of February, but we've been showing it.
yes,
So we'll get to it momentarily. Don't forget to hit the like button if you like the show, because Joe got to 100 likes yesterday. Joe got to ring the bells while we had company, which is
ding ding.
always good. Um, all right, so watches and warnings tonight. Oh, look at this. Winter storm warnings up and down I-25 in Colorado, including Denver. Looks like they might get a foot there, which is interesting. Winter storm watches down in northern Arizona, and I think including Flagstaff and northeastern Arizona, a bunch of counties in northern New Mexico. Uh, we've got winter weather advisories and winter storm watches up on either side of those warnings that extend up into Wyoming and back down into north-south central Utah from north to south, and also some scattered advisories and warnings up in northern Wyoming and in southern Montana. So all the action is in the west. We've got a lot of wind issues. Is that a high? The gold is what? High wind watch? It's high wind watch. If high wind watch is up for the Sierra Nevadas. Now, how do you put up a high wind watch? I gotta look at this because in those blizzards, well, I guess the blizzard covers it. I mean, they were forecasting 100-mile-an-hour wind, so I just want to kind of see what their criteria is for high wind. I imagine that's probably, kind of standard. Let's go to Quincy, California. You ever been to Quincy, California?
No, I have not. I remember Quincy Magoo, but that's something completely different.
Right. Elevation 3,652 feet. Okay, so they're going high wind watch, northeast winds of 40 to 55 with gusts of 75, strongest winds above 4,000 feet. So I think that's pretty much it with that. So that's the problem in California. They also got a lot of wind advisories up and down, even a frost advisory there and a freeze warning up uh, in Northern California. So there's some you know, regular, relatively cold air, I suppose. Meanwhile, as we go back, as I said, nothing going on in the eastern part of the United States. And, the last isobar from this low that's been sitting between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland since Sunday, really, is finally at about New York City. So the wind could continue to drop off during the overnight. There's a nice high that is over me, which is in North Georgia, which is nice. And a nice west and southwest flow getting established here. So warmer temperatures, and I was just looking today at 5 o'clock this afternoon. It was in the mid and upper 60s across Ohio and Indiana, low 70s as you get into Illinois and Missouri, and middle 70s as you get down into Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, and across much of the South. As I said, we had a really lovely day here. And then out in the West, you see couple of weather systems, one that's just come into the Pacific Northwest, and one that came in yesterday and is in eastern Idaho and extends down into Nevada that's moving southeastward. And that's going to start to set up this, well, we'll call it a snowstorm for the central Rockies. Satellite's nice and clear, hard to find really anything in the way of clouds. There's some high clouds moving across Ohio and into Pennsylvania. There's some high clouds back in the middle Mississippi Valley and the lower lakes. Not really much there. Also in parts of the Texas into Louisiana. And there's like a little thunderstorm cell that's bubbling up in northwestern Missouri. You see the lightning strikes going on there. And a heavier overcast now spreading across Utah and into Colorado to set up this snow event that they're going to have. And radars are quiet in the east. We've got some patchy precip out in the west, but nothing major. It's not really going to be any kind of major storm, but it'll be enough to bring some snows to where we showed. And thinking, by the way, other than the fact that we've got this system Thursday night that's going to pass mostly north of eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, then we may get a little bit of rain. You'll probably get some rain Friday night into Saturday morning. And then after that, I think, even though there's a cold front coming through late Sunday, I don't know that there's going to be that much with it. But it will turn colder, Joe, after that front goes by.
Yeah, I think in fact by Tuesday of next week, well, a week from now, we're going to be in the throes of another round of gusty winds and also unseasonably cold temperatures. By next week, we'll be seeing high temperatures in the mid to lower 40s. Now, I know that that doesn't sound frigid, but when you consider that by a week from now, the normal high temperature will be close to 50, that even with sunshine to only get as high as the mid or low 40s is pretty chilly, pretty cold. And then factor in the winds. It looks like there'll be another system that will be developing and winding up, so to speak, to our north and east. And so the gradient will tighten up again, and we will be seeing some, I don't think as windy as what we've just gone through, but some gusty winds coming in for later next week on Monday and on into Tuesday.
The social media firestorm over a supposed event early next week, we can pretty much shut the door on that one.
Yeah, we have on Sunday is St. Patrick's Day, and as I've always said for a good number of years, to me, once you get past St. Patrick's Day, if you want a significant snowfall, when I say significant, I'm talking about, let's say, more than 4 inches. If you want something along those lines, as you have pointed out, Joe, everything literally has to fall right into place. You have to have everything perfectly aligned to get something like that, because generally speaking, by then, the combination of the increasing altitude of the sun in the sky at midday and the milder temperature, all of these things are working against you on a daily basis for getting a significant snowfall. Of course,
Well,
tell
and
people in Denver right now.
right, and one such event was the fourth nor'easter in that when we had the four Easters. Remember
Yes.
the fourth one, which came, I think, around March 24th or 25th, gave 20 inches to Islip in central Long Island, and I remember I drove home in that, and it was puking snow. uh, with the snowfall rates of like 3 or 4 inches an hour. So it was at night. And I remember it was snowing during the day, and not really much happened during the day in terms of accumulation, but most of the action was going to be at night with that particular storm, and it certainly was. So, can it happen? Sure, it can happen. Uh, do we have an
I'm,
upper air setup that can create that? No, we don't have an upper air setup that can create that. Amongst all the other things that you need to uh, have in place. So,
I'm, I'm, I'm saying to myself now, I really shouldn't say this or mention this because I have a feeling I know what Mr. Chiaffi is going to do when I do mention it, but I'm going to mention it anyway. After that fourth nor'easter in 2018, here in Putnam Valley, we had a visitor who came to Putnam Valley and joined up with then the town executive, Sam Oliverio, and that gentleman's name was Governor Andrew. Uh,
oh, oh, we didn't have snowstorms in late March you know, when we set
I knew I shouldn't have
when
said that.
when New York was a colony back in the 1700s. What
The
was he
reason,
do? What was he there for?
because of the fact that in Putnam Valley we had an abnormally large number of trees that came down, and the fact that NYSEG, who is the electric supplier for Putnam Valley, was dragging its feet a little bit. And I guess, I don't know, Mr. Oliverio must have known somebody up in Albany and said, you ought to tell the governor. And the governor, said, hey, why don't I come down and look at them? You do a lot better. Anyway, he came, and amazingly, within like 2 hours or 3 hours after he had come, to Putnam Valley. What happened? All the electricity was suddenly restored.
And
So
it's just
uh,
uncanny, almost
uncanny.
almost godlike.
Yes.
Um, the snowfall forecast, by the way, I just pulled up the snow map, the snowfall forecast map, the digital forecast. So this takes us to Friday 8 a.m. and they've got a 12 for Denver, and just in the mountains west of Denver, they've got 30 and 40-inch amounts being indicated. So the ski folks that are out west are going to have a lot of fun with this. Although it's kind of weird, it's sort of in this really narrow band. It's not particularly wide. It's just basically from I-25 westward, and obviously lesser amounts as you start to go to the east. But it's mainly in Colorado. It's not really showing up all that much in Utah, for example, and in points west. But you know what? Sometimes I guess it happens that way. It's kind of concentrated, you might say. So
A mesoscale meteorological occurrence.
well, it's a little more than mesoscale, but the WPC has got uh, a fairly large area in Colorado and into Wyoming and back into Utah, where the probability of at least 2 inches is certitude, and a lot of areas going up, extending into Montana as well, southern Montana, and down into northern New Mexico, and also into northern Arizona. If we put the probability for at least eight. Some areas of 50% or higher in parts of southern Utah, some areas in and around the state of Wyoming, but the real concentration, very high probability in that area from Denver west, where we have 90 to 100%, 95 to 100% probability. And so that leads me to want to put up the 18. And yes, even an area of 60 to 80% probability there west of Denver for at least 18. Let's try 30. And I got an even a little spot there, Joe, of 30 to 40% probability of at least 30 west of Denver. So this is their event. And of course, do I dare look at the east?
Eh.
Let's look at the east. Well, we know the 30's not going to be there, so we'll have to go down to the 2. Oh, yes. There's a whopping 10 to 20% chance for at least 2 in the northern half of Maine in the next 72 hours. This ends, by the way, this is ending Friday evening at 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
So we've got that. All right. Let's um, let's go to the models. Since you mentioned the AI, let's go to the European AI model here, um, and take a look at what the upper air looks like. We are, I mentioned this last week, Joe. It's so cruel to see this show up now, in terms of a wintry pattern. But you've got a ridge building up through the Pacific Northwest. You've got a deep trough from Hudson Bay into the eastern part of the United States, all the way into the southeast. I mean, this is next Monday night. So if you want to know where our air is coming from next Monday night, guess what? We actually have a even when we had those snow events, we really didn't have much of a polar connection of air. It was that low quality, what was calling the low quality Eastern Canada cold air. And, and even from there, it was not really connected to northern Canada and points northward. This is the first time, pretty much all winter long, except maybe for that week in January when it got cold, where we've actually, here we are, March 19th. I mean, this is Monday, March 18th, so this is Monday evening. You have uh, the kind of flow that cold weather and winter weather lovers would, you know, were hoping for during the latter part of December, January, February, and it never got there. And as we move through next week, as one trough moves out, there's still another leftover vortex behind it, and going down the road, I mean, there's still this tendency here. I mean, now you've got ridging up in Alaska, as opposed to that semi-permanent deep trough, kind of a blocky look toward the end of the period later next week, which you sort of would expect as you go into the spring months anyway. But uh, still, there's a cold look to this overall. Although I see that the AI wants to bring the deeper trough to the western part of the United States rather than to the east toward the end of the forecast period here, which is Wednesday, March 27th. We're almost at the point, Joe, where the long range takes us to April. Excuse
Yeah.
me.
Yes, I
And
know.
yeah, time goes by. And the GFS pretty much on the same page here, with this trough in the east coming early next week, bringing down a shot of cold air, moving over in time. You know, it, it's even the GFS kind of goes to a blocky look toward the end of the forecast period, uh, with ridging across the south of Greenland into Labrador, and I guess the NAO is going to go super negative to some extent as we go through the end of the month. But you know what? It's the end of March, beginning of April. It's like, why? Yeah, especially once you start tasting 70-degree weather. Do you really want to have a snowstorm now?
Well, all I can tell you is that on his most recent tweet, or X, whatever you want to call it, Judah Cohen has written that the polar vortex has apparently saved its best for last with a record breaking disruption and the much desired split that is having big influences on our weather. And then he pauses and said, "Wait, excuse me, as I need to yawn," while reciting all of the superlatives. So from that, I guess he's sarcastically saying, "Wait till next year, folks."
Yep. Ruben, did you sleep through the two snow events in mid-February? Just wondering. Anyway, here's and James Davison. When is this? You keep putting, I have a limited amount of patience for people who put up the same thing over and over and over again. But I'm cutting you a little bit of latitude here. But when is this big ridge, this super massive ridge, supposed to build? Can you elaborate? I'd be interested. Anyway, uh, so here we go. So I'm just looking at the west. You can see the trough that's dropping in. That's in the western part of the United States. The piece of it that drops down, that's dropping down now and cutting off over Arizona and Southern California. That's from this is where we're getting the snow event for Colorado and parts of the Southwest. But that energy's getting left there. And here lies the problem because as that energy gets left there, you got this deep trough that's coming into the eastern part of the United States. It just stays separate. And you can see what happens. That trough does its thing, and and the upper low that drops to the southwest just sits there until early next week. And then once the eastern trough is about to pull out, then that energy comes eastward. So it's kind of funny how that happens. But again, these are the cards you're dealt with. There's not much you can do when you're just dealt a pair of deuces, and the West Coast has all the aces. But here we go on the surface. I mean, as far as one big plus out of all of this, I think, Joe, is the fact that I think everybody is so sick of rain, particularly after what happened last week with, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches of rain falling in an 8-day time span, that they're just kind of getting a break today, from the rain, and I think that's a plus. But here's the system for Thursday night that goes by to the north, a low, uh, this Colorado low that comes out and then runs to the east across upstate New York and then goes, eastward. So Thursday, with a southwest wind, it should warm up quite nicely. Then Friday again is going to probably depend on, how much cloud cover there's going to be. And with the west wind, if there's sun, it's going to warm up quite a bit. And even Thursday, away from the ocean, it's going to warm up quite a bit. But then after that goes by, uh, we kind of in no man's land as we wait for this polar front to come through sometime on Sunday, and that really doesn't look to have much of anything as far as precip is concerned. And then the first part of next week, we get a quick shot of cold air that is going to partially pull out toward the end of the week, but no major storms moving on through. Um, so at least through next week. And the only other thing I would say is, as far as severe weather is concerned, there's probably going to be some severe weather uh, Thursday into Friday, particularly Thursday night. And you can see how the GFS produces a lot of rain there in southern Missouri and into Arkansas Thursday night into Friday morning, and then across the deep south during the day Friday before that system moves out to the east. And then we've got a little system there along the Gulf Coast Saturday into Sunday. I want to get out of there before I get into. I don't want to drive in rain going back on Sunday, so that'll be a plus. But
You know
I'm
what?
not.
Yeah.
Excuse
Okay.
me. Go ahead.
Oh, you're talking about the rain and especially the tremendous amount. I mean, here where I live in Putnam Valley, according to my weather station, we've had already, and this is what now we're at the 12th day of March. We've already had over 10 inches of rain in a place that normally would receive, typically around what 40, 42 inches of rain. Already have had 10 inches, and one of the reasons may very well be that with the El Nino, and this now is according to Bill Kirk at Weather Trends 360. He said we've had a lot of moisture pumped into the atmosphere, in part explaining why 2024 is off to the wettest start in the United States in 26 years. The next couple of weeks may be even wetter. But now this is going to be interesting to you, Joe, because you've been touching upon this and talking about this now on and off for quite a few months. He said the other major factor for all the moisture in the atmosphere is the Tonga volcano eruption back in January of 2022 that pumped, now you ready for this, folks? 146 million tons of water vapor, 63,000 to 100,000 feet into the atmosphere. This moisture is very likely stuck for another, you ready for this, Joe? For another 3 to 8 years, contributing to an overall wet world. Water vapor in the atmosphere, of course, also acts as a greenhouse gas that traps Earth's infrared radiation, making it warmer overall. So, that Tonga volcano, that underwater volcano, pumping into the atmosphere 146 million tons of water vapor. And according to Bill Kirk, this is not going away for at least another 3 to maybe 8 years. So if you're sick of the rain, if you're sick of the abnormally mild temperatures, if you're sick of everything that we've been putting up with for the past few years, deal with it because it looks like it's going to be at least another 3 to maybe, I hope he's wrong on this, 8 years before things may be getting back to a more normal state in this world of ours.
It may very well be. James Davidson, you did not answer my question, so I'm going to ask it again. When is this super ridge? You used the phrase super ridge, okay? When is this super ridge going to build in the United States? I don't care about your opinion with regards to the trough not lasting very long. I just want to know when this super ridge, because you've been posting this super ridge for days and days now. So can you please answer my question? Thank you. WPC, I'm in a good mood. WPC, sorry, SPC, as far as severe weather is concerned, southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, northeastward through Missouri, you've got a marginal risk tonight. And as we move on to tomorrow, we're looking at a marginal risk across eastern Oklahoma, northeast Texas, all the way up into southern Iowa and southeast Nebraska. Slight risk northeast Kansas, northwest Missouri, southeastern Nebraska. So there's that. And that is for uh, that's for Wednesday into Thursday. And Thursday into Friday, as we showed you what the GFS has, large area of slight risk. And I'm sure there's going to be elevated tornado risk from northeast and north central Texas all the way up the Mississippi Valley into Iowa and the Missouri River Valley to Iowa and into western Illinois. And the marginal risk extends further east than that. And as far as 7 day rainfall, I forgot to show that. So this is day one. I decided to go back to this particular map. This is the 3 day liquid precip, and you see most of it concentrated in the Gulf states and in the lower Mississippi and Tennessee Valley, on up into the lower lakes, and then going back through Nebraska and into Colorado. And of course, this is all snow here in Colorado, down into New Mexico and northern Arizona. Here in the Northeast, we're looking at not really very much. This is ending Friday evening, so we got to put in Friday night and Saturday morning. So let's go to day five, the 5 day. So Not a lot here, quarter of an inch, a half-inch stripe across upstate New York because of two systems. If we go to the 7-day totals, you'll see the big amounts again across the Gulf states with a little swath there of 3 inches plus, and a narrow band from East Texas across northern Louisiana and into uh, uh, west central Mississippi. So that's that as far as the precip is concerned. So, there's not a whole lot. I mean, there's no major storm risk, which I guess is, it's a good thing because at least you get a wrapped up storm this time of year. As we just saw, the big deal with these storms in March, whether you start to deal with rain or snow is one, that's one issue, but it's dealing with that wind. The wind can be just, you just want it to stop.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Oh,
tough. You want to know how tough it is? It's tough when you take your dog out. You can relate to this, Joe. The dog is out and he starts moving around in circles and going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you know it's coming. Eventually, it's going to come. And meanwhile, I'm standing there with the winds blowing down my back at 40 miles an hour, and I'm pleading with the dog, please, please, get it on, do it, please, and he's go back and forth, back and forth.
I have
Oh,
to say, my dog, when he goes out to make he's very, he poops in the morning and then he doesn't poop again until the next morning. He rarely, rarely, rarely has to go twice in one day. He gets it all done in the morning. And when he goes to go, to do number one, as soon as we go outside, he has his spots here. And so he goes to his spot, he goes, we're done, we come inside.
Izzy D on the chat board, who are you referring to? He said, please get him back on the show soon. I know there's a waiting list for this show, but I'm sure you can squeeze him in. Who? Who does he want me to try to get him back on the show? I have no clue who he's referring to. Izzy D, come in, Izzy D, come in, Izzy D.
Right. Ethel to Tilly,
To
over.
Tilly.
All
So,
right. So James Davidson said, right after this trough brings this chilly pattern in which this trough won't last. We know it won't last. And then
but
we'll
weather.
go back, and then we're going to go back into a strong ridge and bring up those warm temperatures. So, again, when? Next week? Next Wednesday? A week from Thursday at 110? When? All right. And what do you mean by, warm temperatures now? Because this time of year, especially, you get deeper into March and into April, you almost reflexively are going to go to 60. This is not a big surprise. The average high at the end of the month in most places from north to south in the region that we talk about, eastern PA to southern New England, is 55 to 60. So, are you talking 80s? All right. Are you talking 80s? Oh, anyway, let's play some Briller Jeopardy. Shall
Yeah,
we?
surely.
Surely. Okay. Um, okay. So, what is the highest temperature ever recorded in New York City as measured at Central Park? What is the highest temperature ever recorded in the month of March?
The month of
Based
March.
on what, James Davidson? What are you basing this on? A week to 10 days. So you're saying a week to 10 days from today, a week to 10 days from next Tuesday. Again, give me dates. Dates, and what are you basing this on? Okay, anyway, go on. I'm sorry, Joe.
Well,
Um,
are we having a little discussion here? I mean, you want me
no,
to?
no, no. I have a limited amount. You know, I have a really limit. I already threw two people off this chat board and off this channel permanently because of their, constantly saying the same things over and over and over again. And I have very limited patience with that. Okay, because that's what 5-year-olds do. So, again, I'm holding on here. So back with the question, I see we have a number of right answers. Joe, I'm sorry, did you give an answer to that?
No, I didn't. But I remember one year. I think it was in 1997 or 98 or whatever. Poughkeepsie got to 90 on the last day of March,
Right.
and I think it's like 88 in Central Park. So I'll say 88.
You'll say 88. Well, that's Northern Grace said 88 too. Um, and you know what? You're both wrong. Um, 86, and we've got John Melander at 86, Patricia Olson at 86. Uh, who else had 86? Frank Scalera, Michael Azera, uh, Lou Arizio, thank you for hitting super chat in the midst of that. I appreciate it. Helen Bertona, all saying 86. And you know what, Joe? 86 is the correct answer. On March 31st, 1998. So that's the day that
That
Kapixi hit 90.
that's that's the one. I don't know what I didn't know what Central Park was exactly, but I do remember Poughkeepsie got 90 on the last day of the month, and I was off by a year. It wasn't 97, it was 98. So
Okay. What was the lowest temperature ever in Central Park in March?
that has to be around the time of the 1888 blizzard, like March 12th or March 13th, 1888. And it was probably something ridiculous like, I don't know, 3 degrees or 2 degrees or
Well,
something.
ring the bell because you got you got the temperature right.
Three.
Three.
Really?
And that was March 5th. You were very astute. Okay, I use it. That there's an interesting word there, Joe. Astute. You were very astute to go to the Victorian era in order to answer this question. But it was March 5th, 1872.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I would have thought it had some. It was right around the time because the temperatures during the blizzard of '88 were ridiculously low. I mean, but yeah, all
Right, but
right.
they were very volatile. It was because it basically went from like upper 30s to 4. I think it got to 5 or 4, and
Yeah,
then it bottomed at 4, and then the temperature started to rise, so that by the time you got to the third day of that, uh, uh, the third day of that storm as it was pulling out, it was above freezing and raining at the very end. So
right.
that was that. Now, what was the coldest daytime maximum in the month of
Oh,
March?
I hate daytime maximums. The coldest daytime maximum. I'll say something ridiculous like 12.
Um, that's actually a very very good guess. A wrong guess, but it was a good guess. I'm looking at some of these numbers. Jason Fox also said 12, and the let's see. A lot of you folks are in the teens to near 20. That's actually too high. Matthew Howe 13, too high. Uh, Carol DeCara 13, too high.
Give us another hint.
Michael McGuire -3 is
It's
too
three?
low. Okay, they're closing in. Brandon Grablichoff gets it at 10.
Wow.
10. And you know what the date was, Joe?
No.
March 5th,
March
1872.
72.
Okay. They were pretty busy on that day. What was the greatest total snowfall of the month of March?
Oh, well, would it be March 1888?
Um, no, it wasn't actually.
Really?
hmm The monthly
Really?
total.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, like they had 21 inches in one sitting in 1888 and a few inches here, a few inches there. And you're telling me that there was a month that had even more than that in
There
March?
was a month that had more than that in March.
Wow. Was it during our lifetime? I don't think so.
No, you still need to stay in the Victorian era.
Oh, well, there you go. I have no,
Uh,
wasn't 1888. I have no clue.
Maggie P, you're close at 32, and William Uber, you're close at 32. Sissy Inez, you're a little high with 33 feet, 36. Matthew Howe, you're nearly getting it closer at 31. Actually, Matthew, you're in the window, okay? Because if I round this off, um, 31 would be acceptable. I could also round it down, and Frank Karajit, Frank Scalera, also and Brandon Grablichov, all coming in at 30. So let's split the difference, 30.5. And that was set in 1896.
Wow. I guess they had to I guess that year they had to cancel opening day at Yankee Stadium.
I guess maybe they were playing the Boston Argyle Sox.
Yeah.
Oh God. It's been a long week and it's only Tuesday.
Brandon
So,
Glavlich, the Mets were on the road that week.
oh yeah, the horse and buggy. Although they were the first automobiles in the late 1800s, I think.
Well,
Joe,
anyway, God,
no, I said
what?
there might have been the first automobiles were around in the late 1800s, I think.
I'm not sure. I'm not, you know,
I mean, you
when did the
probably had to have a lot of money to have it.
how about a
But
1928? How about a 1928 Porter?
the 1928 what?
Porter
Who made that? Who made that?
with Jerry Van Dyke. Remember
I
my mother's car?
oh yeah, I think I saw like a couple of minutes of that show and then I just shut it off.
Everybody knows in the second life you got to come back sooner or later.
Who
For men,
played the voice of my? Who played the voice of Mother?
do you know who it
I know
was?
who it was. Yeah,
Ann Southern, right?
and Southern. Yes, dear Miss Maisie
Yes.
and Southern. We we know a lot of really
Y'all may
useful facts that get us on with life.
all may think my story is more fiction than it's fact, but believe it or not, my mother dear decided she'd come back as a car.
God,
I can't believe that I'm singing this song.
I think the show only lasted one season.
One season. Yeah.
Oh God. By the way, when does baseball season start?
I think March 31st. March 31st, I think.
Yeah, so
Remember the
they're in
good
the middle of spring training now, aren't they?
right. Remember the good old days when they had brains and they used to start the season like on April 11th or 13th and
Yeah, the ninth.
they didn't
Yeah,
March 28th. Everybody Carl Craig Carberg is saying March 28th, Vincent Croce. All right, so it's the 28th. You know,
the 28th.
come back in 10 years and they'll be starting the season on February 15th. You know,
Well, I long for the days of twilight doubleheaders.
they'll play
I used to love to go to twilight doubleheaders.
they'll
Twilight.
play a they'll play a twilight doubleheader only if it is exceedingly necessary, where the team in question is only going to make one trip back to New York, and they have to play at a certain time. And so, all right. And then with great fanfare, they say, and tomorrow is going to be a twilight doubleheader. You get in for you get to see both games for one ticket, one price.
Oh yeah,
So
I long for those days. Do they even
yeah,
do that anymore?
again, when they're backed into a corner, otherwise
Corner.
they'll play a day night doubleheader.
Right, so that they could sell out the park twice
Right, exactly.
with two different sets of tickets. I used to love going to doubleheaders.
Yep.
Those were fun. Those were a lot of fun. I mean, it was like a set. That was basically, you were at the ballpark for like 7 or 8 hours. You spent an hour to get there and then an hour to get back. So it was like your whole day. It was the whole day.
Did I ever tell you the story about how my grandfather wanted to kill my sister and I? We had talked him into, and my grandmother. It was the first time she ever went to a baseball game. Shea Stadium, April April 4th, 1972. Mets versus Phillies. It was a twilight doubleheader. First game began at 5 o'clock, but it was banner night, and so my sister and I we made a banner. It had a poster of Carol O'Connor smoking a cigar as Archie Bunker, and the banner was "Stifle yourselves, Pirates," because the Mets were fighting the Pirates for first place that year. So we made this banner, and we get a chance in between games of the doubleheader. we would go out on the field along with like 3,000 other people and prance around with our banner. And so here we are, we had our banner. The eighth inning, the announcer, the public address announcer says, ladies and gentlemen, all of you who are planning to participate in today's Banner Day parade, please begin to assemble behind center field. So we said goodbye to my grandparents. We went downstairs. We went out to behind center field with 2,000 and 3,000 other people. And in the ninth inning, the Phillies tied the Mets. It was like 1-0 or 2-1. The Phillies tied the game in the ninth. And the Mets got up in the bottom of the ninth, didn't do anything, and the game went into extra innings. Nobody scored in the 10th. Nobody scored in the 11th. Nobody scored in the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th. Now
Wow.
my grandparents are still up at, and we're behind in center field waiting for the game to end. Nobody scored in the 16th. The 17th inning, they announced Willie Mays, who was a ghost of his former self. He came to the Mets in 72. Willie Mays was coming up to pinch hit with the winning run on second base. Everybody screamed, "Come on, Willie, get us out of here!" Willie struck out. Nobody scored in the 17th.
My God.
Finally, in the bottom of the 18th, Cleon Jones won the game. It's now, we're looking at the clock. We've been there since like 4 o'clock, right? The game has just ended. It's 10:30 at night. And we didn't get on the field until like 11 o'clock. And now we're going around the field with our banners. We're so proud. Oh, this is great. And we come back to our seat like at 11:30, a quarter to 12. And my grandfather says, "All right, let's go." And I said to my grandfather, I said, "But Grandpa, there's a second game. Are we going to see the second game?" And the look of the look in his eye, you know, I didn't need to push the matter any further. That
By
was
the
it.
way, you've taken your wonderful face off the air. You've got something in front of the camera.
Yes, my shutter.
Oh, there you
My
go.
there it is.
All
There
right.
you go. All right.
All right. The Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this live stream. If you make any purchase there, use the coupon code Winter2324 and you will save.
10%. And I just got a message from Nick Gregory who says, "Hi, Joe. It was great to be on the show. Thanks again for having me. Look forward to the next time." And there you go.
And there
From Nick.
may be a next time.
There will be, I'm sure.
Okay. Lou Rizio, thank you for hitting the tip jar tonight. I think it was Lewis.
Yes, it was.
Okay, and didn't get to 100 likes, but there's always tomorrow for dreams to come true.
Yes.
See you tomorrow night at the regular time, folks, 7:35 Eastern. Bye bye.
All right.